मार्च, मार्च क्यू पी। सर मुझे 1 मिनट में ये डाउनलोड कर लेता हूँ।
अच्छा, इसकी मैं वीडियो भी भेज रहा हूँ, वो भी देख लेना, इसी इसी की बनी हुई है।
ओके सर, पहले मैं फरवरी मार्च 2024 का कर लूँ या ये वाला कर लूँ?
तुम्हारी मर्जी है, क्या करना है।
हम्म।
ये वाला कर लो, फिर 24 वाला। अ,
सर इसकी तो वीडियो पड़ी है ना।
हाँ,
इसकी वीडियो से देख के कर लूंगा।
ठीक है। मैं उसकी वीडियो, तुम फिर 24 खोल लो,
ओके।
कि मैं वीडियो भेज देता हूँ।
सर
ये काफी टफ पेपर है, ये बता दूं मैं तुम्हें। ये जो पेपर
कौन सा
मैंने
वाला?
भेजा, हाँ, ये जो पेपर मैंने भेजा है ना तुम्हें,
यस सर।
बड़ा लेंदी है। और
ओके
हर
सर।
दफा हर दफा ये रह जाता था, पूरा नहीं होता था। जितनी दफा मैंने कराया है ना, पूरा ही नहीं होता था। इसको देख लेना।
ओके सर।
ये वीडियो भी मैंने भेजी है। अभी तुम 24 ओपन कर रहे
यस सर।
हो। तुम्हारे दोस्तों का हुआ होगा, कैसा हुआ था?
कौन सा?
ये जो 21 है, 24 वाला पेपर।
यस, अभी तक तो नहीं हुआ।
अच्छा,
अभी वो कर रहे हैं।
सही। तुमने अब डेली पेपर करने, आज है 7 तारीख।
हम्म।
तुम डेली
तो
पेपर 2 पेपर 3 करो, पूरा पूरा, ताकि
ओके
कोई
सर।
इशू ना रहे।
सर पेपर 2 में तो इतना मुश्किल नहीं होता है, एक्सेल में होता है सिर्फ।
हाँ, तो एक्सेल के पेपर ज्यादा करो ना, तो मुझे मैसेज कर दिया करो, मैं तुम्हें भेज दिया करूंगा।
ओके सर।
ठीक है ना।
यस। डेट उसका एक्सेस का बस फॉर्म ओवर है गया, बाकी तो बाकी सारा आता है।
ये जो अभी भेजा है ना, इसमें फॉर्म लेवल दोनों है।
ओके सर।
अभी तुम 24 शुरू कर रहे हो।
यस, उसको डाउनलोड कर रहा हूँ।
ठीक है।
24 यूपी 20 कौन सा यूपी यूपी? जैसे सर मेरा कल ए ए में वो कर रहा था, ये पेपर 2 कर रहा था, उसमें मेरा एक सवाल था फरवरी मार्च वाले में।
हाँ,
सर इसमें वो कहते हैं क्वेश्चन में, इसमें क्वेश्चन पेपर खोल लेता हूँ। ये सर ये वाला, इसमें वो कहते हैं ऐड द फॉलोइंग टेक्स्ट एज प्रेजेंटेड नोट्स एंड नोट में लिखना ये, फिर इसको नोट के साथ प्रिंट प्रिंट ओनली द स्लाइड एज अ प्रेजेंटेड प्रेजेंटेड नोट्स।
हाँ, ये मैंने करवाया था, वैसे कॉपी करो उसको।
यस सर, ये नोट्स मैं यहाँ पर लिख चुका हूँ, लेकिन प्रिंट कैसे करना है नोट को?
हाँ, तो उस पे जाओ, प्रिंट पे जाओ।
यस सर।
प्रिंट पे जाओगे ना, और यहाँ पे वन स्लाइड, ये आता है ना, नंबर ऑफ स्लाइड यहाँ पे आती है। हाँ, एक तो वो स्लाइड नंबर ऊपर आ रहा है ना, नोट पेजेस पे क्लिक करो, नोट पेजेस। हाँ, ये आ गया।
यस सर।
हाँ,
ओके सर। सही ठीक। ये पेपर M24 in image is bar, just like the image assumption, the balloon is on the left side of the image. So the image in your mask. Review text and then create a new web page. S. Yes.
मैं 5 मिनट में आ रहा हूँ, ठीक है? आप परफॉर्म करते रहे। अनुमान, मैं 5 मिनट में आ रहा हूँ।
ओके सर। सबको मेरी बात आ रही है? हेलो।
हाँ, आवाज आ रही
ओके सर। اتقوا الله عز وجل يا حرام عليك. ايوه. ايوه. بروزر. doesn't support this video. الله. ايوه هناك. maintenance seed next web page seed بيست ايه. ايوه خطأ. 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 يا يا ولد. هنا. ايوه. ثروز هناك. ايوه. الله السلام عليك. All table is center aligned with the browser window. Sir. Sir.
अभी क्या हुआ?
यस सर। सर ये वाला कैसे करना है?
क्या?
ये वाला। ये जिसमें the table is central aligned with the browser window.
अच्छा, चलो ये बताता है। ये वो पता है क्या होता है? वो टेबल को दोनों तरफ से ऑटो कर देते हैं। ये हम पहले भी कर चुके हैं।
कहाँ से?
ये हाँ यहाँ पे टेबल है ना, टेबल की पोजीशन पे जाओ, पोजीशन है यहाँ पे। हाँ ये नहीं, इसमें नहीं होगा। एक सेकेंड।
बॉट राइट लेफ्ट ऑटो।
हाँ नहीं, ये होता है लेफ्ट राइट ऑटो होता है, लेफ्ट और राइट।
राइट लेफ्ट ऑटो।
तो ये सेंटर सेट हो जाएगा ना। हाँ ये हम पहले भी कर चुके हैं।
और साथ में और क्या क्या
सीएसएस है ना ये?
टेबल एलिमेंट।
है?
यस सर।
हाँ,
यस सर।
अच्छा ठीक है, ठीक है।
All table elements have the space between the border of set to 10 pixels. सर ये तो वो है ना, टीडी।
टीडी, हाँ बिल्कुल।
के बाद all table elements have space between the border set to all table cells have padding set to 20 pixels. Cell padding. $20 pixels. Or table element have the space between the border set 10
ये
pixels.
देखो इसमें ये मार्जिन लेफ्ट और मार्जिन राइट, ये दोनों ऑटो होंगे।
Margin left.
वो
किसमें?
टेबल का वो कर दिया ना तुमने।
सर मार्जिन।
मार्जिन लेफ्ट और टेबल पे जाओ, उस पे जाओ, पोजीशन, हाँ मार्जिन आ रहा था ना, क्या आ रहा था?
यस सर, ये लेफ्ट लेफ्ट ऑटो।
हाँ ये कर दिया ना तुमने। हाँ ठीक है, ये तो कर दिया।
यस सर, लेफ्ट राइट।
ठीक है ठीक है। और टेबल पे जाओ, कैसे आ रही है कोड दिखाओ। लेफ्ट ऑटो राइट ऑटो, नहीं ये मार्जिन होना चाहिए, इसको कर दो, इसको टेबल पे इसी पे चेंज करो। नहीं नहीं, लेफ्ट से पहले
तो
देखो,
ऐसे
लेफ्ट से पहले
इससे
उधर ही
ज्यादा
जाओ।
आसान ना होगा।
कोड पे जाओ, कोड पे जाओ, कोड पे जाओ।
यस सर।
हाँ इधर लिखो मार्जिन लेफ्ट। हाँ बीच में डैश आएगा। डैश, हाँ। ये एरर दे रहा है, नहीं मार्जिन से लिखो ना, एम ए आर, हाँ ठीक है, मार्जिन राइट, मार्जिन राइट कॉलन आएगा ना।
यस सर। modify style, table element, table layout, table border grabs, element has spacing of 10 pixel between. सर इसका मतलब यही है ना,
क्या?
you can all element has space between the border set to 10 pixels.
हम्म,
इसमें फिर इधर जाके ये बॉर्डर स्पेसिंग में
बॉर्डर
10
स्पेसिंग,
पिक्सल्स कर देंगे
हाँ 10 पिक्सल।
और बॉर्डर कोलैप्स होंगे।
हाँ
पिक्सल बॉर्डर कोलैप्स। सही। ये हो गया। और स्टाइल एच नेक्स्ट वाज सेंटर अलाइंड। H2 style H1 H2 use the font black, Cooper black. Cooper black font impact if Cooper black not available. H1 next was center align. इसको भी सेंट्रल लाइन करना है, इसको भी सेंट्रल वैसे वैसे करेंगे।
हाँ, किसको करना है?
यस मिल गया, यस मिल गया। सेंट्रल लाइन। स्टाइल एच टू है फॉन्ट है ब्लू कंपोनेंट ऑफ 99, नो रेड कंपोनेंट और ग्रीन कंपोनेंट। राजीव राजीव। 3 H1 H1 and H2 are 18.5. This is 14 point. Allah, we should start using it. Yes, sir, ये हो गया।
सारा हो गया?
Yes, sir।
सही, अब एक्सेल वाला करोगे?
ये सर एक मिनट देख लो, वीडियो चल रही है। यस सर।
सही।
मैं एक और चीज देख, अगर ये टाइप। सर जब इधर ना टाइप करूँ तो चलता है, लेकिन जब स्कूल में टाइप ना करूँ MP4 तो नहीं चलता।
इधर चल रहा है?
ये सर जब मैं इधर वो टाइप MP4 वीडियो स्लैश MP4 नहीं करता तब
हाँ।
चल रहा है, लेकिन स्कूल में करूँ तो उधर नहीं चलता। इधर परफेक्टली चली लेकिन।
हाँ, सही है, मतलब सेटिंग आउट होगी।
यस सर। You are going to pay should calculate cost personally. Safari का देखो guess log the company number launch सही है depend. The site will change each day depending on the wind direction. All currency value must be in Tanzanian shillings with two decimal places. Place formula in cell B6. Place formula in cell B6, 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 B6 to look up Then look up the name of lodge or camp using the code and the external file. Place a formula in cell B7 to look up the distance in miles from the lodge or camp using launch site and external. We look. सर हमें ये कैसे पता चलेगा वी लुकअप कब यूज करना है वो एच लुकअप कब यूज करना है.
नहीं इसमें क्या कह रहा है ये, इसमें कह रहा है ना शीट
सर इसमें ये
क्वेश्चन
सर
क्या।
के प्लेस फॉर्मूला इन B7 टू लुक जब वो लुकअप कहेंगे तो वी लुकअप यूज करेंगे.
हाँ लुकअप तो सब में ही आएगा, लेकिन डेटा के अकॉर्डिंग देखना होता है ना, कुछ कह रहा होता है वो। ये लुकअप वैल्यू कह रहा है ना, टेबल एरे दे रहा है, कॉलम कॉलम वाइज कह रहा है। हाँ
Distance miles from lodge or camp using launch site and external. Launch site. Site. तो मुझे लगता है इसमें एच लुकअप यूज करना है.
एक्चुअल को बोला है।
सर बोला तो लेकिन ये जिस तरह इन्होंने फॉर्मेटिंग की हुई है
अच्छा चेक करो।
इस तरह.
हाँ हॉरिजॉन्टल जाओगे तो दायरे वो कॉलम वाइज, हाँ ठीक है, कॉलम मूवमेंट जो होती है ना वो एच लुकअप होगा,
यस
और
सर.
ऊपर से नीचे वो वी लुकअप होता है।
1 2. ये सब सर ये काम नहीं कर रहा।
एक काम करो, पहले वीडियो देखो जिसमें मैंने भेजी है ना।
सर लेकिन डिस्टेंस काउंट करेगा कैसे ये? इस इन्होंने डिस्टेंस काउंट करने का, लेकिन रोड। सर रो इंडेक्स में लेंगे क्या?
रो इंडेक्स की बात कर रहा हूँ तो अच्छा लुकअप आएगा।
जैसे क्या लेंगे रो इंडेक्स में?
एक सेकंड, एक सेकंड रुकना।
ओ, गॉट लॉस। सर मुझे लगता है ये एक्स लुकअप है, क्योंकि अगर एच लुकअप यूज करते हैं तो ये इस तरह जा रहा है, लेकिन हमें इसकी इंफॉर्मेशन भी इसके अंदर डालनी है। एक्स लुकअप।
हाँ भाई, पेपर दिखाओ जरा। वी लुकअप तो नहीं लग, एक्स लुकअप लग रहा है।
यस, यस मेरे ख्याल से एक्स लुकअप है,
एक्स लुकअप लगेगा। पेपर में
क्योंकि
क्या
वो
लिखा हुआ है?
दोनों इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए।
हाँ तो फिर एक्स लुकअप लगेगा।
ये सही है। तो इधर एक्स लुकअप, एक्स लुकअप, लुकअप वैल्यू लुकअप एरे, रिटर्न एरे, रिटर्न एरे। इफ नॉट फाउंड, एक्स लुकअप नहीं लगी ये। डिस्टेंस इधर है, ये डिस्टेंस। वो कह रहे हैं लॉन्च साइट के मुताबिक डिस्टेंस निकालो। लेकिन अगर लॉन्च साइट ए है तो फिर इतने सारे डिस्टेंस में से एक डिस्टेंस चूज करना है, और वो इस कैंप कोड के मुताबिक होगा। ये फॉर्मूला।
तो मैं इस पे ना वी लुकअप अप्लाई करो, जिस तरह करते हैं।
क्या चीज है?
वी लुकअप अप्लाई करो जिस तरह हम करते हैं, वी लुकअप पहले वो अप्लाई करो।
वैल्यू सर, उन्होंने क्या लुकअप वैल्यू ये यूज करनी है? नहीं सर, मेरे नहीं ख्याल से वी लुकअप हो सकेगा।
क्यों?
यूज क्या करूंगा वी लुकअप में, वो कॉलम
ये
इंडेक्स।
एरे है ना, ये पूरे एरे हैं, पूरे कॉलम यूज करो, ए टू जी।
ये लॉन्च साइट ठीक है इस तरह से।
नहीं ऊपर से नहीं, वैल्यू से पिक किया करो, वैल्यू जहां से वैल्यू शुरू हो। कॉलम चूज नहीं करो,
बता दो।
वैल्यू, सिर्फ वैल्यू।
वी लुकअप में पहले हो रहा है इसी।
44 से सही है, हाँ इनको।
सर लेकिन ये भी तो चाहिए होगा,
ये क्यों चाहिए?
क्योंकि ये B3 पे उसके मुताबिक देखेगा कि अगर ये वाली वैल्यू मिलेगी तब क्या करना है। और सर कॉलम इंडेक्स पूरा।
कॉलम इंडेक्स वो होता है ना जो रिक्वायर्ड होता है।
ये सर
वो
इसमें
तो
तो
कोई
ये
एक
चारों
कॉलम हो,
ये
कोई
सारे
एक
सारे
कॉलम,
रिक्वायर्ड हैं।
सारे रिक्वायर्ड है।
ये सर,
अच्छा, सारे दे तो
इनमें
दिए।
से एक डिस्टेंस। वो कह रहे
कैसे?
हैं कि अगर लॉन्च साइट देखने के लॉन्च साइट ए है,
हाँ,
तो फिर ये देखना लॉन्च साइट ए में से कौन सी कैंप है, फिर कैंप के मुताबिक ये डिस्टेंस निकलेगा।
इसको फिर अभी होल्ड कर लो, तो नेक्स्ट क्लास में देखते हैं।
ओके सर।
ठीक है ना?
ओके सर।
तुमने मुझे
मैं
भेजी
पूछ
वैसे।
लेता हूँ।
हाँ ये फाइल भेजी भी,
नहीं से भेज देता हूँ।
ये मुझे भेज दो।
1। ये से भेज दी।
ठीक है।
ओके सर।
ठीक है।
अल्लाह हाफ़िज़ सर।
अल्लाह हाफिज। तुम ये बाकी प्रैक्टिस करते रहो।
Yep. School, Sunnyside was another Excel tutorial, and this one's all about one of the most popular functions in Excel, the lookup functions. We're going to be looking at lookup, V or vertical lookup, H or horizontal lookup, and then we're going to be looking at the brand new X lookup function, which kind of replaces the previous three. Now, the X lookup function is available only on the 2019 version, but if you're on the previous version of Excel, that's absolutely fine. You can download and install Add-it so you too can use the X lookup function. In the description below, you will find timestamp links so you can jump to the section or the function you're most interested in learning about. Let's begin. Okay, so let's first of all understand what a lookup function does. Essentially what it does, you have a value which you want to look up in a table. Think about when you were a student, or you are a student, you've got your student ID number, and you want to find out whether you passed ICT, for example. So you would essentially go somewhere where there's a table. You would look up in that table, you will find the column that contains all the student ID numbers, you will find your ID number, and then you will go to the appropriate column for ICT and see if you passed. That's exactly what the lookup function does. So as a quick example, here's a table here which is all about books. So we can see each column has got another piece of information about book, the author, title, book reference, so on and so forth. Now, if I want to find the author of a book or a price of a book, then I need to be able to identify the book. So I would use the book reference number. So let's say I'm looking for the author of the book, which is the reference number A0012, A0012. So I'm going to put that here. So K5, this cell here, holds the information that I'm looking for. Then I would go to the column which has the book reference numbers, which is this one, try and find a match A0012, here it is here. And then I would need to know which column has the information I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for price, let's say, I will go to column G and I will get the corresponding value for A0012. If I wanted the author, then I will go to column A and get the corresponding value in that column. Bill Bryson. Okay, so that's essentially what the lookup function does. Let's go create our first lookup functions. I've got here a table with scores. So this is a range of scores and the different level grades from different areas. For example, in the UK, you've got A, B, C, D, F. In Cyprus, you've got out of 20, so on and so forth. And I've just got some different types of level grades. On the left-hand side, I've got the student name and I've got the score. That could be an average score and a severe score. I want to find the grade that Kirsty gets. So essentially, I've got the value that I want to look up, which is this one here. I'm going to use this value and search for an approximate, or there's different ways of saying this, a closest match or a range lookup inside this range of values here. Now, once I've found a match, I'm going to return the corresponding value depending on which level grade I want. Do I want K grade, the Cyprus grade, and Estonian grade, or other? So let's begin and I'll explain as we go along. So the first thing I need to do is to start the lookup function. So equals to lookup. And I open the brackets. And here I can see I need three parameters: a lookup value, the lookup vector, that's the column we're going to try and find the match, and then the result vector, well, that's the column that's going to return results. Now keep in mind that the lookup vector and the results vector have to be of equal size, otherwise you can get an error. So the lookup value is going to be this value here. I'm trying to find the grade for Kirsty, and Kirsty's score is 59. I'm going to press comma now, because that means I have finished entering the lookup value, and I'm moving over to the next parameter. The next parameter is the lookup vector. This is my lookup vector. And then as soon as I press comma, that's now going to ask for the result vector. So I need to choose which column I want to return the result from. So if I want to return a UK grade, I select this column here. If I want a column from other, this one here, I'm just going to use a UK grade from here. So I'm going to choose that. Now, because I know I'm going to be copying this formula down, I need to make this cell range an absolute reference and this cell range an absolute reference. And if you don't know what cell references are, I'm going to have a reference at the bottom in the description to a video where I actually have a tutorial on absolute, mixed, and relative references. So make sure you watch that. Absolute references and relative references are very, very important. So, okay, I'm going to close the brackets, and that simply means I'm finished with my function. I'm going to press enter. Okay, this gives me a D. Now, how does it calculate this? Well, essentially, it does this. It takes the lookup value, which is this one here, 59. And then it goes to this section here, and it tries to find a match from 59. Now, because this is a closest match, and lookup can only do searches using numbers. What it's going to do is going to take this 59, and it's going to find the number from this vector here, which is closest to the number 59, equal to the number 59, but not bigger than the number 59. So essentially, the closest number is this one here, 60. But 60 is larger than the number 59. So it's going to go for that one. And that's the one it's going to choose. So it's going to say, of course, in this range here, and it's going to return the value D, because this is the one that we chose. We chose the UK vector for results. I don't need the absolute references if I'm doing just one lookup, but because I'm going to copy this down for the rest of them, this is where the absolute references were needed. And if we have a look here for this number here, 60, it comes to the table, and what it does, it tries to find the closest number possible again. And this time, the closest number possible is actually the number 60. So it looks for the closest number. Well, it first looks to find a match, an exact match. And if it doesn't find an exact match, it's going to look for the number which is closest to it, but not larger. And in this case, it's exact. It's a C, and that gives me C. Okay, so that's a lookup function. But before I go on, let me just show you how you can use a different kind of vector as well. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to type my lookup function again, equals to lookup, open brackets. I'm going to be looking up this value here, comma. I'm only going to show one example, so I'm not going to use absolute references. The value, the column which I'm going to use for my lookup again is going to be the same, comma. That ends the selection of the lookup vector. But this time I want to return the Estonian grade, that one. And I'm going to close my brackets and press enter. So before a 59, well, in this category here, there you go, number 50 was a D. This time it's returning a 2. See that that's a 2 because it's taken from this vector here. So that's the lookup function. Let's have a look at the lookup function, but this time instead of a vertical lookup, we're going to look here for a horizontal lookup. Okay, so we can see here exactly the same as before, but this time the score runs across instead of down. Now, with the lookup function, you don't really need to make any changes because the lookup vector and the result vector are separate. They're two different selections. And I say this because later when we see the lookup in the next step, it's actually one selection. So again, this will be exactly the same, equals to lookup, open brackets. I'm going to be looking up for this value here, comma. And now I want my lookup vector. That's going to be the range of cells which I'm going to use to try and find a match for this score. That's going to be this one, comma. And then it wants the result vector, and that is essentially which row this time contains the results I want to return. So if now I want, let's say, the CY grade, I'm going to choose that vector there. This is the beautiful thing about the lookup vector, because the lookup vector and the results vector doesn't have to be side by side, or you can choose any one very easily just by selecting the area you want. So now if I close the brackets, and in fact, I need to add my absolute references, so I can copy that down using the F4 button. There we go. So the 59, which was a D for the UK, there it is there. For the Cyprus grading system, that's a 17. Okay, so this time we're looking horizontal. And we can copy that now. Okay, and 95, of course, is the maximum, and that's a 20. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so that's the lookup. Let's move on now to have a look at the VLOOKUP function. The function or the purpose of the lookup is exactly the same. We have a value. We want to compare that value to a table or to a range of cells that we want to try and find the closest match. And then we've got some results that we want to choose where we want to get the results from. So let's have a look and see what the VLOOKUP function requires. Equals to VLOOKUP, open brackets. Now here we can see we've got slightly more things, slightly more parameters that are required. The first one is the lookup value. So again, that's my lookup value. That's the value that I want to look up, comma. Now this time, instead of indicating which one is the lookup vector and which one is the lookup, the results vector, we choose the entire table. Now, if I want to return the UK grade, I only need to choose this section here. By default, Excel will always use the first column, this one here, for the lookup. For example, if I want to get the results for UK or for Cyprus or for Estonia, I have to include that one there. So if this is my table, automatically the lookup column is going to be this one, the first one. You don't have a choice in this. You can't tell it to start looking up from here when you select that table. So this is where the VLOOKUP falls a little short. We're going to see this next. The next thing that we do is, since the table range that we select is this one, we then need to indicate which column do we want to use to return a value from. So this table here has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you want the answers to come from column 2, then you would use the number 2. If you want the answers to come from column 4, let's say Estonia, you will put the number 4. That essentially is the VLOOKUP. So let's just have a quick look at that. So I'm going to click in here, equals to VLOOKUP, open brackets. I'm going to select the value, which is going to be my lookup, comma. Now I want the table. I'm only going to select this part of the table here so we can see how we can use the bigger table later, comma. Now it's asking me the column index number. Now this essentially is asking me, your table consists of 2 columns, 1, 2, and 5 rows. The first column will be used automatically from the VLOOKUP to do the search, to match this value here, the lookup value. Which column do we want to return the answer from? Do we want to return the value back from column 1 or from column 2? If I want the UK values, the levels, then I want column 2. So that's going to be column index number 2, comma. Now, the last parameter is this true or false. Do we want the VLOOKUP to do a range lookup, which is what we've been doing up until now, or do we want an exact match? We're going to look at the exact matches next. But what is the difference? A range lookup is when you've got a value and you want to find the value which is equal to it, or if not equal, as close as possible, but not larger. If you only want to find values in your lookup table which are exactly the same, so if you're looking for 59, you have to find the number 59 and not the closest possible match, then you're looking for an exact match. In this case, we're doing a range lookup, so we're going to click on approximate match. That one. So that's going to be true. You can just type that in if you want, or you can click. So we've got the value we're looking up. We've got the table which contains the lookup vector and the results vector in one row. We've got the column index number, which actually say from that table which column do we want to get the answers from. And then we're saying that this is going to be an approximate match or a range present. And there's my result. Now, I haven't used absolute references. I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to select this table range, make that absolute, so I can copy this down. And that is my vertical lookup. Now, in the case that I wanted to use, instead of the UK results, I wanted to use return the Estonia results, for example. I can't do that with my function as it is, because here I'm saying that my table is only these two columns, and Estonia is not part of it. So I'm going to change my function. Let's do that. So for my table this time, I'm going to select from here. I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to press comma. Now, remember that the lookup vector is always going to be the first column of your table. You don't have a choice in this with the lookup. Where we get the results from, however, we do have a choice. So in this case, I want to get the answers from column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to get the, actually, no, we said Estonia, so 4. I want to get the answers from the Estonia column. That's column number 4. So I'm going to put the column index number 4. I'm going to press comma. And again, I want an approximate match. So true. And close my brackets. Let me just put here again, absolute references. Okay, so you can see now it's returning the values from column 4. And if I copy that down, it will be the same for all of them. So it's getting the values from here. So the difference here is instead of choosing two vectors, you choose a table. The first column is used as the lookup column, and then you decide which column to use to return the results. The HLOOKUP function. Now the HLOOKUP function is exactly the same as before, but this time instead of choosing the column which has the results, we choose the row which returns the results. So let's do this quickly. Equals to HLOOKUP this time. Open brackets. Again, the lookup value is the value that I'm looking up, comma. My table array, so this time again, I'm going to choose a table. Here's my table. So this first row now is going to be used for the lookup row of the horizontal lookup function. With the VLOOKUP, the first column was being used for the lookup, comma. And now instead of column index number, we want the row index number. So in this case, I want to return the values of the levels for Cyprus. So that is row 1, 2, 3. So CY results are in row 3. So I need the row index number 3, comma. Again, I want an approximate match. So true. I'm going to close the brackets. And because I'm going to copy this down, I'm going to use it for here to make that an absolute reference and present. Okay, there we go. And that's the HLOOKUP. Exactly the same as the VLOOKUP. You just have to understand that you're looking for the rows instead of the columns with the answers. And if you want to change the return row, so let's say you want Estonia, so that's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I can just modify this, change that to a 4, press enter, and then copy that down. And those are my Estonia results. Okay, so now that we've finished with range lookups, let's have a look and see where the VLOOKUP falls short. And the same with the HLOOKUP. So the VLOOKUP falls short if your table looks like this. So we can see here the lookup value that we want now is on the right side of our table. It's not on the left. This makes it impossible to select my table and use this column as the lookup column. Remember, the VLOOKUP will use the first column for the lookup. This would also be the case if I had something like this. Let's say I wanted to use that column there for my lookup and it was in the middle, just like I showed you in this exercise, where I was looking for the book reference number and I returned the author. I wouldn't be able to do that with the VLOOKUP function. I can only do that with the lookup function, or if I modify my table by bringing this to the front. That's the only way. So this is exactly the same issue as well with the HLOOKUP. So the HLOOKUP, if what you're looking for is not the top row of the selection that you're going to use for the table, in other words, the results come after the lookup row, you can't use the HLOOKUP. You can, however, use the lookup feature, but only if you're doing a range lookup. Remember, the lookup function can only do range lookups or approximate matches. It can't do an exact match feature when it comes to text. So essentially, the lookup only works with numbers. And because this is numbers, I'm just going to show you here. So if I was to do this VLOOKUP, open bracket, would begin by starting with an equal sign, which actually means C43 equals to VLOOKUP. This is the value, comma. And if I choose this table now, there's no way of this working because I cannot separate the lookup vector and the results vector. So I'm going to change this to a lookup feature instead. So that's a lookup, and this is my lookup value. And here I'm going to comma. Now here I want the lookup vector. So this is my lookup vector, comma. And my results vector, let's say I want the UK one, that's the results vector. And you can see now, because the lookup separates the two vectors, you can choose irrespective of where the lookup vector is.
वहां से खर्ची लेने आया यहाँ आके ले लेती खर्ची तेरे को ऐसे भेज दिया उसने खर्ची कर ले लेती उधर किसी से पप्पो से ले लेती इतनी दूर से तो खर्ची लेने आया हाँ नानो करती आया ना इतनी दूर से यूं जा रहा है हर वक्त घूमता रहता है पढ़ाई शुरू होने वाली है तूने तो ले लिया है हाँ इंशाल्लाह देखते हैं जून जुलाई में देखते हैं छुट्टियों में देखते हैं क्या दो, पैसे खुले ही नहीं मेरे पास, वैसे ही इतनी दूर से आ गया, वहां मामू से ले लेता, मैं दे देता, खुले ही नहीं है, पप्पो से ले लेता, कितने लेने, वो बैग से ले लेते, बोलो आके ले लेना, खर्ची की पड़ी हुई थी, है आराम से रहे, खुला करा ले, चीज अभी रोजा खोला है ना, खाया पिया है ना माशाल्लाह, देर हो गई तो जो भूख लगी इतनी जल्दी, अभी तो रोजा खोला है, 1 घंटा हो गया, 1 घंटे में तुझे भूख लगी, क्या लेना क्या है, पैसे बाकी खुले ला के दे, फिर जाएगा फिर आएगा, आके ले लेते, घर पे ही आना था, पैसे जेब में रख, अनीसा से पूछ ले,
And I'm just going to make these absolute. Close the brackets, ampersand. Okay, and there we go. And the same goes for the HLOOKUP function as well. The only way you can use the HLOOKUP is if the row which has the values that you're going to be looking up, the lookup vector, is above the results vectors. Otherwise, you have to use a lookup function. Okay, so that's the lookup function, the VLOOKUP function, and the HLOOKUP function being used as approximate match or arranged lookup. Let's go have a look at exact match. Okay, so here I've got another few tables here that we're going to use so we can understand the exact match. In this case, I've got my table up here where I've got a D code and a country. Here we can see we've got country codes, and here is the full name of the countries. In this column here, I want to place the name of the country based on what the code is. So for this one here, this is my lookup value, which is A12. I will go to my table, this one here. Automatically, the VLOOKUP, this is a vertical lookup because we're going to be looking up vertically. Automatically, the VLOOKUP function will use the first column for the lookup vector, and then we will tell it to get the results from column number 2. Now, we cannot use a lookup function for this. In fact, let's do that quickly. Equals to lookup, open brackets. I'm going to be looking up for this value here. This is going to be my lookup vector, comma, and this is going to be my result vector. Now, remember we said the lookup function can only do approximate match or closest match or range lookup, whatever you call it. When I press enter, instead of returning UK, it returns Cyprus, and that's wrong. The UK, it should return United Kingdom. Now, I don't want to get into the details why it returns something which is wrong, but what you have to understand is lookup is only for range lookups using numbers. So for something like this, we're going to use the VLOOKUP equals to VLOOKUP, and it's exactly the same as before. There's no difference, but I had to demonstrate it for a complete tutorial. This is the value I'm going to be using. This is the table, so I'm going to select the whole table array. The table is only 2 columns, comma, and I'm going to get the answers from this table, which has 2 columns and 5 rows. I want the answers to come from column 2. So that's 2. This is column, that's column 1. This is column 2, and then comma. And the difference now is I don't want an approximate match. I want an exact match. In other words, it's only going to return a result if what I'm looking for is found in that first column and it's exactly the same. Close the brackets, press enter, and now I can copy that down. Well, I can't because I need to make it absolute references. So let me just do that so you can see that there. There, I need to select my table, make that absolute, and now I can copy that down. So what happens if we put something which doesn't exist? For example, Z, we get an error. Okay, so this is an exact match. It will only return a value if something is found and it's exactly the same. Okay, now let's do the same for the HLOOKUP. I'm going to click in here. I want to calculate the amount of discount depending on the discount code. So that's going to be my lookup value. Here is my table with the lookup vector and the results vector. So I'm going to go to equals to HLOOKUP, open brackets. Here is my lookup value, that's comma. Here's my table array. I'm going to make that an absolute reference now, comma, and I want to get the result from row number 2, because that actually has a discount, comma, and I have to put this for false. Now remember, we're searching for text here, we're not searching for numbers. When we're searching for text, you have to use false. You cannot have an approximate match or a range lookup. So I'm going to close brackets, press enter, and here is the discount for each one. But if I wanted to calculate how much the discount is without creating another column, you can very easily use the result of the HLOOKUP, which is just a number at the end of the day, and simply put here multiply by whatever is inside the purchase price. And I can copy that down. So here, what it does, it uses the discount code. It goes to the lookup table, finds an exact match here, returns the value from row number 2, which is this one, and multiplies this value with the purchase price, and that's our result there. I want to demonstrate how we can link 2 workbooks. In other words, have the results spreadsheet in one workbook and have the table with the results vectors in a separate worksheet in another workbook. Because very often in Excel, we want to be linking across workbooks and worksheets. So let me show you how we can do this. Text spreadsheet have some blank books and the information.
पूरा स्मूथ है बार बार आना जाना स्मूथ हो गया